Hey, and welcome back to Broncos Central. I am Nathan McKenzie, and this is my preview of the game between the Brisbane Broncos and St George Illawarra Dragons. Now, the game is to be played at Suncorp Stadium this Sunday, and the kickoff is at 2 p.m. All right, let's go through the team list. Some pretty big ins for the Brisbane Broncos this weekend. We've got Brendan Piakura coming back. We've got Payne Haas coming back. We've got the two guys from Origin will be in the squad. Tony Staggs is actually back from suspension. He's a big in into the centres. Payne Haas in the forward pack. Same with Piakura in the second row since we just lost Jordan Ricky. I think that's going to be very big. I actually give a lot of credit to Piakura. If you actually look at the start of our season, including the World Club Challenge and the first two rounds, he was not playing. And then when he came back for round 3, yes, no, I think he's a big in. Just as much as Payne Haas is. The squad itself is looking pretty good. The big out still. Jordan Ricky's a big one, I think. He was actually playing really well this season. That's going to be a big out for the club this week. But I think the forward pack is actually looking better than it has been a long time. We'll go through some stats in a minute. This preview is going to be very different to what I've done previously. I've actually gone into a little bit of depth of some stats for you all to have a listen to and have a look at. See if it eventuates in a victory this weekend. Now, the Dragons are pretty unsettled. They've got Jacob Little coming back. He's a big in. I always think he does really well coming off the bench. And all reports he's going to be in there starting dummy half next year with Damien Cook going overseas. So that's the team lineups. Let's go into some previous meetings. So the Dragons actually have won this corresponding game for the last 2 years in a row. Played at Suncorp Stadium. We played on a Sunday in the afternoon. And the Dragons have won both times. And the scoreline has been 30 points to 26. Now, both times we've been expected to win. This time around, I think coming off the bye, I think defensively we need to be on point. We've got some players coming back. Payne Haas is we're going to want to push for State of Origin selection. Yeah, Manman Shibashaki are back. They were on the bench for Queensland on Wednesday night. And they've got a lot to prove to get back into that starting lineup. Reece Walsh obviously missing out on the squad entirely. Has got a lot to prove. And I think this is about the time last year. We still struggled this time last year, but I'm hoping the next couple of weeks will lead into another bye. And I think we need to win every single one of those games to make sure it happens. Just reiterating some of the form guide for both sides. The Broncos unfortunately lost their last game, 42 points to 12 against the Warriors at Magic Round. A very disappointing first half. That first try after half time, I was getting excited and sitting on the couch, but then we gave away 2 soft tries. And basically the game was over from there. The Dragons have actually started to become good. So going back to the Broncos, we've only won 2 of our last 5 games with losses to the Warriors, Sea Eagles and the Roosters. Moving on to the Dragons. They've actually, it's coming back from the bye. I know they've had some massive blowout scores, especially going against the Roosters. They're coming back and getting flogged by the Knights. But the last 2 rounds, so Magic Round against the Panthers, last week against the Warriors, they've shown signs that they are improving. I think their attack has still got a lot to do with that team. I think moving forward next year with some big inclusions, especially Drinkwater and Metcalf. Metcalf coming from the Warriors next year. So I think they've got a lot to look forward to next year. They've got a great young forward pack for this team. So I think there's some good signs ahead moving forward, especially next year. But I think this year, I think their attacking skills are just down, where I think they got to work a majority on their defensive efforts this year, I think. And you've seen that in the last 2 rounds. So the Dragons have lost their last 5 games, unfortunately, with losses to the Warriors, Panthers, Knights, Roosters and Rabbitohs. Brisbane are averaging 20 points a game and conceding 25. However, at Suncorp Stadium, they're averaging 24 points a game, but still conceding the 25. Dragons are only scoring 12 points a game, so I alluded to that before with regards to their attacking skills. But they're conceding 33 points a game. Away from home, however, they're averaging 13 points and only conceding 24. So you look at those 2 stats there and then, and straight away you lean towards the Broncos. But there's going to be an interesting game this weekend at all. If you actually go through some of the try locations for both teams, this is courtesy of statsinsider.com.au. So the Broncos scored 26% of their tries on the left side, 33 down the middle and 44 on the right. The Dragons score 27% on their left, 23 down the middle, and 50% on their right. Now, conceding side of the things, the Broncos concede 37% on their left, 37% in the middle, and 26% on the right. So I think that's going to be an interesting combination. So the Dragons score majority of their tries on the right, but we defend better on the right. So that'll be an intriguing battle moving forward to this weekend. We look at the Dragons conceding side of things. So 37% on their left they concede, 18 down the middle, so that's actually not too bad, and 45% on the right. Now, if you look at those stats, if you were the Broncos, you'd be going again that right side all day, every day, and I think that would be the eligible play that I would do going out the Dragons. All right, let's look at some more stats for this round 13 clash. So we look at the Broncos as a whole. They've played 11 games. They've won 5 and lost 6. At Suncorp Stadium, they've played 5 times. They've only won 2 and lost 3. It's not a fortress coming to Suncorp Stadium anymore. I think the Broncos are pretty lucky. We've got 12 home games a year. We will play a Magic Round as an away game. We'll play against the Dolphins as an away game. So there's 14 games right there. You would think we'd make that game a fortress if you look at those stats. Broncos don't have a 58% success record at this ground, which is not good. And you look at the Melbourne Storm, they have a 75% record at their home. So we need to make this a fortress. We need to go back to the old days. But everyone that's playing at this stadium, I would totally understand the reasons why. Look at all the other stadiums around the place. There are some beautiful stadiums in Sydney now. If you look at Combank, you look at Accor. It's not the best stadium. It was built for the Olympics. Field itself is immaculate, but I just think the stands, wish they could be brought in closer. I know that's not going to be the case. I don't think they're going to upgrade it any longer, even though that's our biggest fielding rugby league ground. Allianz Stadium, I haven't been to the newly built one, but it looks amazing on TV. But then we've got also all the other grounds around the place from there. And as we said, the Broncos average 24 points a game at Suncorp, and they concede 25. Surprising fact, I know we played at home, even though I was in the away game against the Warriors at Magic Round, but this is actually our first home game during the day. In recent years past, our day form has not been good at all. Last year, we didn't start off too well either. I think our first day game we won. I was actually lucky enough to be there. Even when we were there, I was actually saying to my family that I don't like coming to day games. We haven't got a good record at halftime. I think we're down against the Sharkies. And that was actually our first comeback win of the season. Obviously led us on from there. Hopefully this can be a trigger for that as well. The Broncos have actually, the first try scorers, the Broncos have actually been the first try scorer 5 times out of 11. And out of those 5 games, the Broncos have only gone on to win 3 of those games. So just because they were the first try scorer 5 times, only 3 times, so it's not the be or an end all side of things. Our first 20 minutes of games, the Broncos, they've won 5 of those, they've lost 5, and they've drawn 1. And 11 of the 11 games this season, when the Brisbane were either leading or level after 20 minutes, they would actually go on to win all of these games. So there's some pretty good stats right there. We go into the first half of games. Broncos have won 4 and lost 7 when leading at half time. And 11 of those games when we have actually been leading a level, we've won 4 of those. We've actually won all of those games. So if we're actually leading at half time, I think it's a good sign for us. And I would think if that happens again this weekend, it should be put us in good stead. We've only come back once this season. Very different to last year, the end of last year, with regards to being behind. In fact, we came close against the Roosters. We came back against the Storm in round 3. A couple other teams we've tried to run down to no avail. But hopefully, this 2 weeks that we've had off, yes, we've had some disruptions with the State of Origin players and players coming back from injury and suspension. I just think hopefully we've had enough time to go back to that defensive effort that we showed against the Tigers and against the Doggies. And that was it, with players missing in our side. Players coming up to prove their worth. Guts of this team need to put their hands up and say, I am to be here. I need to play for this side. So we need to show them that this is the reason why you are picked. If not, we've got players ready to step up, and we've also proven what they can do. Now, just second half stats alone, we've actually won the second halves of this year. We've actually won 6 of them. We've drawn 1, and we've only lost 4. So out of the 11 games this season, Brisbane have won the second half 6 times. But out of those 6 times we've won the second half, we've gone on to win 3 and lose 3. Yes, we have a good track record coming back in the second half. I don't want that to be an omen moving forward. Yes, we've got the ability to do so, but I think we just need to be on point. We've shown that in the first 20 minutes, if we actually stay in front, but also at half time, not many teams have run us down. So if we just continue doing that, I think I'll put us in good stead against the Dragons this week. Now, if you look at the Dragons side of things, it is pretty sad, the viewing of the data for this side of things. They've lost all their games this season. And as we said, they're only averaging 12 points a game. And away from home, they're only averaging 13, but only conceding 24, which is far less than their overall steady side of things. If you look at their for and against, just up on the screen there, you'll see that it's not the best, but I think they are in improving as a defensive team, and we'll see how that works moving forward this week. So 11 games that they've played this year, 2 out of those games have actually been the first try scorer, but unfortunately, as we know, none of that leads to victory for the Dragons at all. And the first 20 minutes of a game, they've actually won and drawn 2, but unfortunately, as we all know, still that would lead to a loss. It just goes to show not every game, I know they got blown off the park against the Roosters and against the Knights, but most games have been really competitive. For the first 20 minutes, that just proves 4 out of 11 games, and those 7 of them they've been behind, and also they've been the leading try scorer twice. So they can start off really well, and if they stick with these clubs, I think they'd be better off for it. I don't know if it's a fitness side of things, whether they seem to fall apart in the second half and they just don't have the stamina to stay with these teams. You can just see improvements, and that's all you can hope for in a team. I suspect that even as a Broncos fan, even if my team lose, if I can see they're putting in and they're working hard, but they're just being beaten by a better opposition, I'm proud of my team. It's just that when I see the players not putting in, they're slack, they're lazy, and that's when that upsets me, when these professional players who get paid a lot of money to play this game that we love. There's so many people out there who'd rather be where they want to be because they love this game, not for money, but they love the sport. They just got to remember where they came from and remember that there's so many people want to be where they are. Now, first half starts is pretty sad for the Dragons. They've only won 1 out of 11 games at half time, and I'm pretty confident that was against the Titans, and they got run down in the second half. We're looking at the second half stats as well. They've actually only won 1 game in the second half. We know they go on to lose all of those games as well. So not very good rating for the Dragons. I think basically since Dean Young's taken over as coach, you'd almost go, okay, let's just cut it there. Yes, I understand and know that he is 0-3 since starting over, with losses to the Roosters, to the Knights and the Warriors. But I think they're a good side to handle. Like I said, I think the defence is starting to build as a team. I think their attack's got a long way to go. I think that can only be room for improvement. And I just hope from a rugby league supporter that we do see that. It's disappointing because we used to have games against the Dragons used to be very tight, especially in the early 2010s, especially when Wayne Bennett went to the club. Us against the St George Illawarra Dragons, they used to beat us in semi-finals. We used to beat them. Same with the early 2000s. I think going back to the 90s against St George, but also against Illawarra. You think back in 1992, Illawarra, we played in the semi-final. We beat them. Then we played the Dragons. That'll always be a vivid memory in myself, the 92 grand final. But those 2 clubs were in the semi-finals for our first campaign. And we all obviously remember what we did that year. But I would just hope the Dragons can keep improving the way they are, and hopefully their fans will stick with them, because I know there'll be light at the end of the tunnel. Some further stats to have a think about. So completion rates for both clubs are 76%, which is actually pretty poor. The Broncos have actually not done well recently, especially against the Warriors. That was pretty hard to watch in some cases. In some efforts, you can see that they're trying to do certain things. I'm not a kind of supporter that actually likes my team just running up 1-for-1. I think, especially when we're down and we need to try something. So I know mistakes are going to be made, and that's where we're leaking a lot of points. We're making mistakes. We're making knock-ons, forward passes. The knock-ons don't bother me. Forward passes do. Should not be put in position to throw forward passes. They're too professional to do that. And some of those were blatant. I'm almost surprised they weren't a penalty. It was just embarrassing to watch. Tackle efficiency for both clubs. Dragons are actually got better tackle efficiency. They're actually close to 90%. They're only 9.1, where the Broncos are 87.4. I would like for the Broncos to be up to early to mid 90s in that, and I would hope that Maguire wants that as well. We look at the next stats as well. Actually, the play the ball. So basically, the average play the ball timings is 3.51 seconds. It seems fast, but I actually think that's way too slow. But that's also contributive to what the other teams are doing and slowing down the ruck. It's just, I think it's something we need to improve in immensely. Looking into on the screen now, you'll see the stats with the average run meters. Now, this has been a big thing for me since we've lost Haas, Jensen, Piakura, even Carrigan at some times. Now we've lost Jordan Ricky. Our running meters have actually been really poor. We're actually one of the lowest running metres side of the competition. We're averaging 1,360 metres, but we're conceding close to 1,900 at 1,872 metres. That's 500 metres difference between what we're making, what we're conceding. So we're actually losing in both. I'm hoping with Payne back in there. Preston Ricky is actually, I think, is a good starting front rower. We've got Pentalty coming off the bench. I think that's going to go very well. Same with Seaway coming onto the bench. We've got some good young forwards coming through, and I think moving forward, we get some of these other players coming back from injury. I think we're in pretty good position if we can just keep winning, moving out of State of Origin series, and leading after that. We'll just see how we go. Missed tackles is 33 per game. I was actually shocked when I saw that. Even though I know our defence has actually been pretty poor this year, and sometimes I've actually go through every game we've played. Some games we've actually lost, but actually defended quite well. We've actually only missed like 12, maybe 13 tackles. But the fact we're averaging 33 missed tackles a game, I think that's something that Maguire would hopefully be looking at. I know in some case, like just Brisbane dominated by the opposition forward pack. Average errors per game is 11. That is very bad. That is not a good stat to have for a football team. And if we can fix our running meters, if we can get more, I understand there's a lot more stats I could have thrown out at yours. But I don't think you need to go through every single one. I'll change it up every week so you can see some different things. But I just think if we can fix the missed tackles, if we can get that down to 10 to 15 a game, and errors, if we get that down to between 1 to 5, I think. And I think one of the games we only had 5 errors. We actually won that game, won quite, and that was the game against the Dogs. So it just goes to show, if you keep the ball in hand, you win game. Now you look on the other side of the view, the Dragons are actually running more than we are. And you look at their forward pack compared to ours, and you don't understand how is that achievable. But they've conceded a lot. They've conceded a little bit more than we have with 1,932. They're averaging about the same missed tackle count with 32, and their error count is exactly the same as ours with 11. I think it's going to be an interesting game this week. Both, if you look at those stats, like the running meter side of things, like the Dragons are going well. And you can listen to some of the commentary. I even remember Blocker Roach couple of months ago actually saying they're getting out of their half. They're actually doing real. It's when they get down the other end and actually try to put either points on the board or they're trying to get 6 again. Just that fifth tackle options are actually been pretty poor. That's the reason why they're not getting ball back. They're not getting the tries that they deserve. They put a lot of pressure on the Panthers, and the Panthers just saw it coming. Their try was actually, the try they did score at wide was actually an awesome try. They put the ball between their hands. They did some cutout passes, and it was done really well. So, yeah, if you look at the two stats between the teams, I think some things look pretty even, but others are pretty glowing about how this game is going to go. So that's pretty much it for the stats for this game. I believe the Broncos will win, and they'll win by 13 plus. It's going to be, hopefully the weather is picked up. The weather's been pretty poor here during the week here in Brisbane, but I think with all that rain, hopefully it'll dry out. Today's been really good. I'm recording this video on a Friday. Hopefully they'll pick up over the next couple of days, and we'll lead into a beautiful day on Sunday. Hopefully there's a big crowd there. I like to be there myself personally, but I wish all the spectators there a great day, and I hope the Broncos put on a show for the fans. If you love this episode and you want to see more, please like, subscribe. I'd love to get your feedback. Please put your comments below. Ask me any questions that you want, not just Broncos related, but NRL related. I love to talk about this team. I'm very passionate about the Broncos. Give me feedback on my photo wall behind me. What do you think? My partner helped me put it up. I think it looks fantastic. I know if you actually look at it, if you go to the Broncos head, there's actually 2 different logos there if you really wanted to get technical. But I just basically went with the main 3 that we've had, plus my own. Yeah, really excited. And any other new content that you want me to come up with, and if you want to come on and have a chat, we can do that. We can do video time each other. We can do a Zoom meet or whatever. So just let us know. Put your feedback in, and I'll be really intrigued to talk to anyone who's Broncos fans. And yeah, just love it. Like I said, enjoy the weekend. Just remember, subscribe. Unsubscribe. I'd like to get a lot more fans out there if I can to the page, and it'd be fun to see. But other than that, go the Broncos, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.